Okay, so this is his game today, and he's playing against Dingxin. So Dingxin has black, and Kim Jiseok has white. Okay, one note I might make is that when black plays a 3-4 point here, there's a number of players um, there's a number of players who like to play a diagonal opening like this or like this. So for instance, Yama is one of the players who likes to do that with 3-4 points. And then he's going to be invading the 3-3 points fairly early, maybe playing a Shimari corner enclosure first. So there's a number of players who like this opening, and it would be a reason for, I'm noticing everyone today is playing this point for white, avoiding that diagonal opening, making it a parallel, what we call a parallel opening, when both players have two stones in a row, you might say, on the same, on one on each side of the game of the board. Um, so this is again, it's a very common opening, and black plays here. Now this is a really interesting move that we didn't play before. So, for instance, a move that we would be playing quite often in a position like this would be this one, where black is playing in the corner and is hoping to connect up with this stone on the side. So this would be a success for black. Black is looking at this one, and white would probably have to find a way to avoid that. So white would, sometimes you would see white playing a hane, sometimes you would see white just playing here and attacking this stone. Or white could try this one. So this is the kind of variation I was seeing a lot before we had computers, but they play this move. So if white plays here, this is probably not so good for white with the cut on the fifth line here. So that's the problem that white has there, and too many cutting points. If white plays here, there's the peep here. This is just working a bit better for black, I suppose. So in the game, white didn't do that. White played here, yeah. So in this case, although it's a large knight's move, at some point black can play this exchange, and this is going to be a connected shape with the stone on the side. So it's a way for black to be getting one line further into the corner, and eventually black will be able to play this peep to connect up the stone. So he's leaving that for the time being. In some cases, he might be wanting to peep from the other side. So he hasn't played it yet, but basically it's not worthwhile for white to be playing here immediately. So at some point, black will be able to play this move and save that stone with Sente. And white's corner group, it's not 100% alive yet, so white has to be careful about that. So white played away. Oh, yes. I thought Pino was asking, could white have kicked before playing the pincer? The move for white actually is the same point. This is the way for white to protect the corner if white wants to. And the reasoning behind that is that if black jumps into the 3-3 point, this is the best place to have a white stone to kill the black corner and to win any potential race to capture. So like even if black surrounds white here, having a stone at 1 at 018 is the perfect point where white has to play to kill that black group in the corner. And it means that white's winning by a number of moves. So white doesn't have to do anything to win this. It's not even supposed to be called a race to capture, because a race to capture is usually, in professional games, you usually call it a race to capture when there's only a one move difference. So when when white is winning by a large number of moves, like in this case, it's not even a race to capture. So the comparison is a move like this, which I see a lot of in handicap games. And when this thing happens, white will be able to kill the black corner also. But you can see how that white move at 1 is so clearly in the wrong place. It's filling white's own liberty, taking away white's own potential, even an eye. It's even taking away a potential eye from white. And it's not doing anything to kill the black group in the corner. That's why playing at 1 is sometimes a kind of a problematic move. So it's better to if you're going to defend the corner, to play here. And so the question was about the kick here. Kicking here is generally a bad move, just because it leaves so many weak points in the corner. It's going to be hard for white to protect the corner, even if black doesn't do anything about it. White probably has to play something like this just to avoid being almost killed, you might say. Like, because if black plays here, this is a position where it seems clear that it's black who is attacking, and white's going to have to try to find a way to scrape out a life with something like this, for instance. And so it's a bit painful. So when you kick there, not only is white strengthening the black stone on the outside, it's not really defending the corner. It's not succeeding in that. So the first kick, this one, this is a move that people didn't like before, but we found out that this one works just because white still has room to move out to the side. And so if you wanted to defend the corner, it would work really well in combination with this move. So this is this shape is almost a perfect shape for white in regards to the lower right corner, which is worth remembering. But when white has not played that, white has to live with the idea that the corner is not 100% alive. It's not going to be much territory, but white is playing large points quickly and is confident enough that it's going to survive. So it's just a different way of playing. But that was a really good question, I thought. That was something that it was worth talking about. Okay, the shoulder hit. That's very common. We see a lot of that. Actually, it's interesting. White didn't play the attachment. So the approach move there, it's sort of old style, I would say, where people usually play an attachment against the Shimari. This is just so more popular for people to do this. But of course, you have to know a lot of variations. I don't really advise this for people, but if you do look into the playlist for AI Josekis, I did make two videos about this. I made one for black playing here, and I made one for black playing here. So I did make some videos about this Joseki. I would say it's probably one of the more challenging Joseki variants, and so maybe if you're confident that you can understand it, you can try watching those videos. Oh, I should update the names. Thank you. Thank you, Henry. So let's see. This is Kim Jiseok and Yang Dingxin. So let's see. I can find. I think I have it here. Yeah, that's better. Yang Dingxin and Kim Jiseok. But he didn't do that. So extending here, it's a. I'd call it an old style move. Otherwise, white could have played something towards the left side. Just playing an approach move here, like before we had AIs, it would be the most natural move. But I'm getting so used to seeing people play the attachment. So it looks a bit unusual to me now. And of course, black's shoulder hit, that's a very popular move. Well, Hanamaru Alice it's a good question, but it's really hard to answer that one. When pros play white and they have the handicap, which I assume means the komi, what are their priorities? So, the old style was that if you had a komi, like people, it goes in stages because hundreds of years ago they did not have komi, and white was playing very actively, trying to start a fight and stuff like that, because there was no komi, and black was going to win by a few points. So white would be playing very actively. Then they started having a very small komi. They started with something like 2.5 points and then 4.5 points. And it got gradually bigger. And throughout this process, everyone was thinking that now all white had to do was play passively and make the game a close game. And they thought that even when it was just 4.5 points. But in these games with 7.5 points, that would still be a way some people think about it, but it's not the way I see the top players playing. They still play very actively, and they're just playing variations that they have researched with computers. So you can see both players playing very actively, and it's just the way it's the style that people tend to have nowadays. And computer programs in general, I'm talking about the neural networks, the modern computer programs which are superhuman as far as Go is concerned. They're especially good at invading the opponent's areas. So like when you have these big moyos like black has on the right side, and maybe it is spreading out into the center of the board, the AIs tend to just leave it for a while, and then they're very skillful in invading. So if you're not confident in that kind of a fight, if you're not confident in invading your opponent's area of influence, then sometimes it's difficult to go with the computer variations. So that's also something that you see a lot with modern games where they're playing that computer-like style. Yes. R4. R14. Leonardo. R14 is a prophylactic to hold on to the corner. The corner is okay as it stands. It's not as if it's going to die immediately. So yeah, white's probably doing better not playing R14 yet. Okay, here in the corner, black would usually be answering that white kick with either this one or this one. Sort of interesting to see black playing here now. If white answers that like this, then black will have moves like this, which would usually live in the corner. So like this would, let's see, how would black do it? This would be alive. I guess black could do it like this. It doesn't look like white can kill that. So in the game white played here, maybe black is thinking he can get away with not playing this move here. So usually black would play here, but the kick and this move would be a good exchange for white, obviously. So he's trying to get away with not playing that maybe. Oh, he played it anyway. Okay. Okay, so black is splitting the white group, the white area on the upper side, the top here, and cutting off this group that white has on the left. So that's an attempt to attack here. And white is taking the territory first. So like if white had left that, black would still have, if white had left that, black would still have an attack here. Where this would be generally the shape move for black to play. And if white plays an attachment underneath, black can cut here and go after those white stones on the outside. So if we have something like this happen, black's going to win this race to capture. So locally, black's just a move ahead. Sorry. Black is a move ahead, whatever white does. So that's the idea here on the top. And if white plays moves like this, it is kind of it's an awkward position. So it's an awkward shape for white. So black does have some potential to invade it too, which would be taking away some white territory and starting a fight here. So that's what, with the white move playing here, white is, by strengthening this group, it does reinforce white's group on the left by creating a strong group next to it in the process of getting some territory. So that's how that is working. And white should be able to handle that group. So if black were to chase it from this side, let's see, something like this, then white would be able to jump out in the other direction. So that's what white was doing with that stone at J4. I4. And so black didn't go after it immediately. In some cases, black's going to be able to play, for instance, let's see, where did white play? Yeah. So black sort of seems to be thinking of doing something like this to cut the white stones off from this side, and then something like this to be able to capture those white stones on the left side. So black is sort of thinking of a potential attack on the white group on the left here. When black played, black was thinking of it when black played this move. But white, you might say white ignored it. The right side of the board is pretty important also at this time. Okay. Looks like I'm caught up. So I can't say who's ahead at this point. So white has about 20 points on the top and probably about 20 points in the lower left. So white has about 40 points of territory. Black has a bit more than 10 points in the upper left and a bit less than 10 points on the left side. So black has about 20 points of territory. So white's ahead 20 points against black's position on the right side of the board, which is a pretty good position. So I'd say it's about even, an undecided game. Okay. Yes. So black did have a weak group on the lower side here. So that's what with this move, black is trying to settle this group. So for instance, if white plays a hane on top, I would expect black to play a hane underneath and do something like this to get a solid shape here. Or maybe black could leave it. Black could maybe omit the final move at 8, but it is a solid move to play here. If white plays a hane underneath, this is either a hane here or maybe a cut here. So maybe black would play a cut here, sort of hoping for this would be too good to be true, but this is the kind of shape that black is hoping to get. And again, black can omit this final move maybe. If black plays away and white cuts here, black can always squeeze like this, which would be good shape anyway. So sometimes black can avoid playing this final move. Oh, 15. Okay. What do the pros see that they do not? So this move that black has played, it does have something to do. It can potentially set up O15. However, oh, sorry. That was not what I wanted to do. However, if black plays here immediately, even if white just plays a double peep here, it's not. This is going to be a lot of territory that white gets. It depends on the center if white can play here. This would, of course, be better, but maybe black's going to cut here and attack like this. So that's why I was not so sure about the wedge here. And you might notice that black is sort of wishing that he had a stone at J17. So, so it does have to do with that, but the double peep there is not quite working yet. So that's another thing with which this attachment here has to do with. So if we have white playing something like this, then this actually could be played. It's a big difference. So after this, black can cover here even, and has that stone in the center, which is going to help black out. It looks like this is okay for black. Maybe something like this. Peeping here, it's not such an absurd idea. It's not. You don't have to feel defensive about this move. I don't think it's okay to play it. But the game move, it is an idea. It's setting it up for later. So locally, it is a forcing move. Like if white was going to do something like this, it would be a huge benefit for black towards the lower side. So black has a potential gain here. And usually white would want to, oh, but he didn't. Wow. So that came unexpectedly. So obviously white could not have played a passive move here, because that would be giving black too much. So white is playing a super active move, while white still has a potentially local advantage. And it turns out the ladder actually favors white. So one ladder that I would look at would be this one. But the ladder favors white. So this one, although there's a black stone there, it's not going to help. It's a ladder anyway. So that wasn't good for black. If black plays here, it's going to be something like this. And black is being pushed down onto the second line. And so I think the idea here is to attack black before black gets that double peep. So like if black plays here, it's going to be too late to do anything like that because black just pushes through on this side. Or if black plays like this, again, it becomes too late for white to be attacking here. So white's doing it while that connection is not severed yet. So it's sort of interesting to see how all of the moves being played, they do have to do with this move that Leonardo was suggesting. It's this peep here, which is sort of the focus of these moves they're playing in the lower right part of the board. And so I showed black playing underneath with white doing a double hane. There's also playing on top. Maybe something like this. I'm not sure how this would turn out, but if white gets a position on the right side like this, then this is an example of how by doing that earlier, now white doesn't have to save the one stone. So white would just sacrifice that one stone. And it wouldn't be so big anymore because white's already scooped out the right side. So white, this would be okay for white. Okay, so this is a solid move. And now if white, let's see, if white does something like this in order to be sure of cutting off those two black stones, let's see, how is this gonna, I don't really know how this fights. In this case, maybe here. I would like to have this move work, but I'm not so sure about it because it's going to be hard for black to save all those stones. So maybe black would run out immediately. I'm not sure how this is going to turn. In the game, white hasn't done anything. Ben is asking, looks like an overplay for white. It would be bad if he ends up with two weak groups. So for the time being, that group on the left there is pretty much okay. So it's not that one. If white can make a group in the center of black's area, so for instance, something like this, anything that happens on the other side, like the corner, it's not going to die all that easily. If white can live in the corner and have this group, it wouldn't really matter so much if this one stone is cut off. That's not as much a big deal. So yeah, there's a lot of complications here actually, because white does have to deal with the corner also. But it's potential that if white can live on both sides, white has reduced the whole area for black. Henry Choi, thank you very much for giving me a present. Some coffee. Okay, so white would be, in this variation, this is the game position, white would be thinking of whether to try to do something like this, which would be just trying to make a living group there, and it would just be these two stones that have to live, plus the corner group, of course. But white wouldn't be so worried about that stone at N14 anymore. Or white could sort of play to sort of loosely connect them. In this case, the stones would connect up, but they would still be the entire group would be a liability, and which white would have to be, for instance, in a shape like this, white would have to be taking care of this group in the center. Otherwise, it would have been pointless.